A report due to be published on Tuesday will say the Metropolitan Police is riddled with sexism, racism and homophobia and has failed to change despite a number of official reviews urging it to do so. The force commissioned the report back in 2021. That was after the murder of Sarah Everard by a serving Met officer, Wayne Couzens. One senior official has described the findings as, in quotes, atrocious. To shed some more light on this, I'm now joined by the former Surrey Police and Crime Commissioner, Kevin Hurley. Kevin, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. What are we expecting from this report? It looks pretty damning.
Well, I think it's what you've already trailed out there, but all I've got to say about it is welcome to British society. That's what British society is like. And probably the one thing we can say about the Metropolitan Police, for all the kickings it's getting at the moment, it's probably slightly less worse than the average elements of British society, because the police do, in fact, vet everyone who joins it. One would only need, if you like, to look at what goes on in the health service. A number of doctors who are convicted and charged of sexually assaulting people, different nurses murdering children up and down the years, doctors murdering people, NHS employees having sex with dead bodies. You know, let's get real and understand what's happening here. The police merely replicate society. I'm very worried what I see going on, and that is a major attack on the morale and motivation of the police service, which means we will all be less safe. Because the thing that people forget about police, it's the only job in the country where you need to deal with confrontation on a daily basis. And if people lose the will and commitment to go forward and deal with confrontation, there's actually nothing we, society, can do about that. So I have a message for Mark Rowley, Lynn Owens, the current Deputy Commissioner. Stop all this grandstanding, get behind your people, stop letting them be openly criticised all the time and stand up for them, because your best people are actually leaving early, and it's being filled up by Boris's newbies who know nothing, no life experience. That's why the police product we all receive now is so poor very often.
So, Kevin, you think the police, it simply reflects a society that's, going down in terms of standards, a society that's riddled with sexism, racism and homophobia?
Well, I'm not saying it's going down in terms of standards, but that's how society is. You know, having myself been in the military, worked in insurance offices, worked in hotels and shops, and indeed even in the media, the kind of banter and talk that one hears amongst colleagues down the football club, rugby club, is no different. Sadly, that's the way human beings are. But what I would say about the police service is, because there's quite a strong and powerful selection process, despite what everyone says, they are probably less representative of those antisocial behaviours. But my message is, the more we kick the police, the worse they're going to be at protecting us.
Kevin, I have some sympathy with that view. I do feel like if you demonise police officers, that is certainly not to the benefit of our society as a whole. But surely, considering recent cases, Wayne Couzens being one of them, they do deserve a kicking. Why weren't other police officers standing up for standards and, putting pressure against these type of men?
Well, for the first time in British history of policing, which is 200 years, there's been a psychopathic rapist murderer. That's a big surprise for us all, but it actually has been replicated amongst people within the health service, military, and other elements of society. So, frankly, we shouldn't get too vexed about that. There is a concern that within his small group, they had unpleasant WhatsApp chats going on. That was bad. But the big lesson for me about Wayne Couzens is he should have been caught earlier when he was flashing, because flashing for me as a senior detective is a precursor to people going on to be rapists and murderers.
Kevin, I think people are worried that...
Let me just finish. What that tells me is how poor police investigations have become, that those inquiries of allegations of flashing were not dealt with urgently, because in days gone by they would have done.
As someone who's observing this, it does also smack of corruption. Clearly, people looking out at police officers protecting other police officers.
Well, it doesn't. How does it smack of corruption? What we know is that a couple of flashings were not investigated promptly due to bureaucratic incompetence and the investigative processes within the police being run down so badly, like so many other hundreds of thousands of crimes. Unfortunately, Wayne Couzens should have been caught earlier, but it's got nothing to do with corruption. It's got to do with police cuts and incompetence.
Right, incompetence, not corruption.